You know what, in this case, what I want to do is to lower this by one of these segments, right? By two of these segments actually. So maybe I should use the segment situation here. You see, multiplier y, wait a minute. There are those lines that go left to right, which are these. So the value to separate the two is max lines times this. So this is really the formula here. Maximum number of lines is equal to this divided by that. So each line then is multiplied by that. Okay, so max lines. Now we don't have max lines where we are at the top here in the canvas, because we only create it here. So what we can do instead is copy whatever formula we used to create it and recreate it at the top, because these variables exist at this point. So what I'll do is I'm just going to say extra y. I'll put this one here. So this is the amount that we're going to move the y by. So I'll copy that and put it here. Echo it out right there. Extra y, extra y. So let's see what that does. Okay, so we've moved by one segment. See that? That's cool. Now, since we've moved by one segment, the problem here is that we've extended by one segment and then moved the whole thing down by one segment. This is why you see down here we have no extra space, but we have successfully moved the whole thing down. But what I want to do is have extra space still. So I need to increase my y by the extra y. Okay, so we are already increasing by extra y, but let's multiply that by 2 so that we increase 2 spaces down and then move 1 space down. So that's what we've done. So we've moved the whole thing 1 space down, but I want extra space down here. So refresh, and there we go. So we have an extra layer here and that. So in essence, we've increased by 2 because there's one extra space here, there's one here. We've just shared it from the top and the bottom here. And then here we have extra space over there for our numbers. So I think the numbers down here can fit quite nicely. Now, if you remember very well, the x which is going this way, the x of this is exactly where these points are, these circles. That's where we need our values down here as well. So we can ignore the y values and just deal with the x values here so that we get each point down here. Then we can put the data that is inside this. So what we want here in the data is what's in here, the keys. So I'm going to say, I'm going to call this one x text, right, is equal to, and then I will get all the keys. So I'll say array keys. So I can create an array that contains only the keys of a particular array, which is that array called data. So array keys will get just the keys and create an array of values containing these keys here. So that's what I wanted. For the values, no big deal. We have the values right here already in this array, but I just wanted the keys. So xtext, that's what it should be. So that's the thing we should look through in order to add our text. The only question is, how wide should we have each x point between these points, you know, this segment here, one of these segments? How wide is it? Where do we get that value? So it seems the circle knows that value, but let's see, where is it? We're only interested in the x value. So that's the multiplier x times number. So multiplier x is equal to one of those segments. That's good to know. So all we need to do now for our text is to loop. So let's add a loop here. Let's do a for each loop. So I'm going to say PHP tags, but I want to use HTML, so I'll say for each like this, and say for each X text, right, as key and value. We don't really need a key because the keys will be 0, 1, 2. So here we just need a value. And then because I want to use HTML, I'll do this. I'll close it with a full colon, close that, and then put PHP tags like this and say end for each, like so, semicolon. So whatever I put here is pure HTML. All right, so in that context, I want to use this text here, and I'll do that. I'll reduce the font size maybe to, let's try 12 pixels. And then now I just need to give the X and the Y. Now the Y is going to be a fixed value because the distance will always be the same from the top to the bottom to where the text is. So this distance is approximately the height of this thing, right? Minus 2 segments, maybe minus 1 segment. Yeah. So let's try with the height of the whole thing, which is canvas Y. Now remember that the real height has been added to, we've added 2 extras there. So canvas Y won't really take us to the very bottom, but it will get us close. So that's okay. So what I'll do is I'll come down here where there's Y and echo out canvas Y. Oops, I've added a plus sign instead of an equal sign. Let's paste that. Okay, so canvas Y, and the X is, oopsie, I've added this at the wrong place. Let me leave this, it should be here. So sorry about that. Okay, but the X will be, okay, so the value is what we want to see in the text there. So I'll do this and equal and close. And so what about the X now? So the X, we know that multiplier X is the key. So let's put multiplier X here. The only problem is that's one position. So we want it to move along. So we will use the same trick of putting a number here that we can keep track of. Now, unfortunately, this is not a PHP tag, so that's HTML. So I just have to do this and say num is equal to 1, and then close that. Okay, so yeah, this complicates things a little bit. Let me put num is equal to 0 so that I can put the num plus plus here. I just don't want to open more PHP tags along the way, so I'll just put it there and say num plus plus so that it starts at 0 but then it goes to 1 immediately instead of putting 1 there. The reason I put 1 here is because this num plus plus is at the end, but this one is at the start, so I want it to change to 1 immediately. So now that we have a number here that changes, we can use it as a multiplier here and do that. Okay, great. So with that in mind, let's see what we've got. And as you can see, we have January, February, March, April, up to December. So we can do better with the font size. So let's try 16 pixels. Let's see how that works. Okay, there we go. Pretty cool. So we may want to move these down a little bit depending on your situation. Still, the font isn't so great. And let's change the color from red to black or maybe gray. Depends what you're trying to do. So the Y here, we can add something. Now you have to be careful with adding because depending on the size of your graph, if you add 10 pixels to something, it may look like it's a lot, but if there are a lot of values, this will increase the resolution of your graph, and 10 pixels might not be so big. So it's always good to use multiplier values so that as the thing grows bigger, the values also grow bigger. So in this Y, what I want to do is add an extra. Where is that extra that we added? extra y, so that once we add whatever extra we are adding here, it corresponds to what we are doing down there. So let me use that extra y value and just add it here to the text. So refresh, and there we go. So it goes down there, but it seems too far, right? Now, instead of me using a different value, let me just divide it by 2 and then do that. Okay, and let's refresh. Maybe too much of that division. Let's divide by 1.5 so that the number is bigger. And there we go. Okay, so we got it. Only that now these guys, I think this is okay though. Now, if you want to move them a little bit this way to the left, you can do that with the x-axis, and you can subtract from this x-axis. So let me put these into brackets so that it evaluates that, and then you can do a simple subtraction of a particular value. So in this case, in order to maintain this issue of multiplying instead of just adding, keep in mind that this distance from here to there is one multiplier. It's multiplier x, that's that value. So if we divide it by 2, then we get half of this. So if I move this by half, it will get there. So maybe if I move it by a quarter, it will get here. So you can use such math. So I can copy this and say multiplier x divided by 4. Let's subtract by that and see how much that goes. Okay, so that's much better. If it's too much, you can change numbers. Maybe divide by 5. Okay, so move it until you find the right spot. Okay, so far so good. At least we have these numbers down here. We have some text there. Now we need to add numbers over here, and let's do that in the next video.